Okay, today's topic is the manufacture of ammonia. If you want to manufacture ammonia, that process is known as a Haber's process. Ammonia is important chemical because there are many uses for ammonia, and the most important one is to make the fertilizers. It can be used to produce nitric acid, but the important one is fertilizers because fertilizers are the compound which provide essential nutrients for the plants such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Later, we will discuss this part, the fertilizer. So manufacture of ammonia, the process is known as a Haber's process. And the formula, the chemical formula of ammonia is NH3. The equation of this reaction when nitrogen, which is a gas, reacted with hydrogen, the reaction is reversible. So means the reactant can form a product and product can decompose, form back the reactant, result in a formation of two molecules of ammonia, where the forward reaction is exothermic. When we say exothermic, it means that when a reaction like the product is formed, the energy is released to the atmosphere. If I make energy profile diagram, energy diagram for reactant and product. So because the reaction is exothermic, so what it means the reactant will have more energy. The product is having less energy. So N2 plus 3H2 will give 2NH3. As we discuss the reversible reactions, if I want to increase the yield, if I want more ammonia, so what temperature is suitable? High temperature or low temperature? So the low temperature is suitable. That's right. But even though that low temperature is suitable for this reaction, but the temperature which we use is around 450 degrees centigrade. But 450 degrees centigrade appear to be a high temperature. But what is the reason why specifically this temperature is used? Number one, the inert nature of the nitrogen. Like nitrogen, it is present in our atmosphere in a greater proportion by volume. But because the nitrogen is having an inert nature, like unreactive nature at low temperatures, so it does not tend to react. The reactions of the nitrogen approximately start around 400 degrees centigrade. That is why, like when we compare the inertness of the nitrogen, 450 degrees centigrade is a low temperature. And why not exactly 400? Why a bit more than 400? Because the rate of the reaction is also another thing which we have to keep in mind. So a slight increase in temperature will increase the rate as well. So this is an optimum temperature around 450, 430 can be used for this reaction. What about the temperature? What about the pressure? Both nitrogen, hydrogen, the reactant side, both are gases, and ammonia is also a gas. So with pressure, so it prefer a high pressure. Why it prefer a high pressure? Because you have 4 moles of the gas in the reactant side and you have 2 moles of a gas in the product. So it prefer high pressure. So around 200 atmospheric pressure is used for this reaction. But another issue is the reaction is exothermic, so reactant can form a product can decompose and form back the reactant. So the second thing what we need, how to obtain the reactant, because to form ammonia we should have reactants. So how we obtain these reactants? So nitrogen, from where we get nitrogen? Nitrogen is from air, and the technique which we use to extract the nitrogen by fractional distillation of liquid air. So nitrogen is by fractional distillation of the liquid air. And from where we get hydrogen, there are different ways to get hydrogen. As we discuss electrolysis, when we pass the current through the aqueous solutions which contain hydrogen and other element which is more reactive, so hydrogen will discharge. So we can have hydrogen by this way, by electrolysis, or but the large scale production is by cracking of hydrocarbon, or from methane by reaction of methane with steam. So these are the ways, because hydrolysis does not produce a large scale hydrogen. Sorry, electrolysis does not produce a large scale hydrogen. So if you need a large scale hydrogen, like it's greater amount of hydrogen, we use cracking. Cracking in organic chemistry, we will discuss this term cracking. From the name, you can identify, if I say I crack something, it means I break. So basically, hydrocarbon means compound which contain carbon and hydrogen. So when we crack these compounds, when we break these compounds, this will result in a formation of hydrogen. Or there's also another way, when a methane is reacting with steam, this also result in a formation of hydrogen. So how this process is done? Look, first what we have hydrogen and nitrogen. From where we get nitrogen? We get nitrogen from the air, and hydrogen is by using a cracking of hydrocarbon or reaction of methane with steam. So both gases are mixed in a scrubber. Then we use a compressor. What is the purpose of the compressor? Is to increase the pressure. So this compressor will push these gases. Still the reaction does not start, but when these gases passes over the catalyst speed up the rate of the reaction. So what catalyst we use for this purpose? We use iron as a catalyst. So what it cause? This iron will cause a reaction between nitrogen and hydrogen, and nitrogen and hydrogen, when they react with each other. So when nitrogen is reacting with hydrogen, this will result in a formation of ammonia. But because the reaction is reversible reaction, so it does not happen like all at once. Not all of the nitrogen hydrogen reacted and form ammonia. Maybe some of them remain unreacted. So the one which remain unreacted, we recycle them, add them again. And what happened, how we obtain ammonia? So we cool down. When we cool down, ammonia liquefy here. We collect this ammonia out from the chamber. So when we continuously remove the ammonia out, so the equilibrium shift towards right and the forward reaction favors. So we will get greater amount of ammonia. Is it clear? The manufacture of ammonia by a Haber's process. So nitrogen reacted with hydrogen. When nitrogen react with hydrogen, this will result in a formation of ammonia. And we use a catalyst to speed up the reaction. The unreacted nitrogen and hydrogen again fed into the chamber so that they can react with each other. And because the forward reaction is exothermic, so we prefer a low temperature around 450. And to favor or to increase the yield of ammonia, we use a high pressure around 200 atm. So just a quick revision, what happened? Hydrogen and nitrogen are added. From where we get nitrogen? From fraction distillation of air. Hydrogen is by cracking or reaction of methane with steam. When these gases further compressed at high pressure around 200 atmosphere, and this region is around 450 degrees centigrade. So when these gases passes over the catalyst cause the reaction between, like, speed up the reaction, so result in a formation of ammonia. But not all of the hydrogen and nitrogen react with each other. So what happened to unreacted nitrogen and hydrogen? They are again fed into the chamber, and we cool down this. So as we cool down, so lower temperature remove ammonia as it forms, and again nitrogen and hydrogen fed in the chamber, and repeat the cycle so that we will get more ammonia. So this process is known as Haber process for manufacturing ammonia. Is it clear? The manufacture of ammonia by a Haber's process. If you want to test if you want to test the ammonia gas, there are two ways to test the ammonia gas. Number one, test number one, what we can do, we can take a damp red litmus, and what we will observe, it will turn blue. This is one way. Basically, why a damp litmus, red litmus turned blue? So originally there's a litmus paper which is red in color, and it is damp or moist like water vapors are, or water molecules are also there. So when ammonia gas is released, like example, a chemical reaction is releasing the ammonia gas, ammonia is lighter. So as it rises, so what happened? Ammonia, which is NH3, reacted with water H2O. This will result in a formation of a compound known as ammonium hydroxide. Ammonium hydroxide is an alkali or base. And what is the effect of alkali or a base on the red litmus? So that part which is exposed to ammonia, that part of litmus paper will turn blue. So basically the red litmus paper turned blue due to the formation of ammonium hydroxide or alkali. There's also another way we can test. Yeah, it takes time, like it's not like uh, but relatively it depends also on the amount of ammonia which is released. So if greater amount of ammonia is released, then in a short time, like example within 3 minutes or 4 minutes, that red litmus will turn blue. Then there's also another test. What we can do, we can place a jar which is filled with ammonia near a bottle of HCl. And what we will observe in this case, we will observe that dense white smoke is formed. What is the reason why there's a dense white smoke is formed? For example, there's a jar, a gas jar, which is filled with ammonia. So as ammonia is lighter than air, so it will rise up in the jar because it's lighter, so it will rise up in a gas jar. So we place this ammonia, or we can take a glass stopper. Say this is a glass stopper which is dipped in HCl. So it contains HCl. on the surface. So surface of this glass stopper is having HCl. So what happened when ammonia NH3 reacted with HCl? Basically, it's a neutralization acid-base reaction. Ammonia is an alkaline gas, hydrochloric acid is there. So this will result in a formation of ammonium chloride. And this ammonium chloride is a solid, or it is actually a white smoke. So a dense white smoke is formed when fumes or ammonia gas reacted with, it can be hydrochloric. Normally, it's like a hydrogen chloride gas instead of using aqueous HCl. So HCl basically mixed with ammonia result in a formation of ammonium chloride, which is dense white smoke. So what we will observe near the bottle where we place this HCl near the mouth of the gas jar, we will observe a dense white smoke is produced. And that dense white smoke is actually ammonium chloride. So these are the two ways by which we can test or check the presence of ammonia gas. Is it clear, this part? In the second test, what happened? You can see a gas jar which is filled with ammonia, NH3. So this NH3, which is lighter, rises up and it reacted with HCl. So when HCl reacted with ammonia, what is the product? The product is ammonium chloride, which is a solid. So when the reaction occurs, what we'll observe? We'll observe a dense white smoke. Why white? Because ammonium chloride is white in color. So it will form a solid ammonium chloride. So we'll observe like a cloud or a dense white smoke of ammonium chloride. If we use aqueous HCl with aqueous ammonia, it will form a ammonium chloride, but that ammonium chloride will be soluble. Like it will, this will work best when you are using the gas ammonia with gas hydrogen chloride. Why it will not be working effectively with aqueous ammonia? Aqueous ammonia means ammonia is dissolved in water. So NH3, basically NH3 solution is there. And you have, say, aqueous HCl, another container, which is filled with HCl aqueous. When you mix them together into another container, so what happened? Aqueous ammonia will form, but aqueous ammonium chloride will form, but that ammonium chloride is water soluble. So as it is water soluble, so you do not observe any white solid because the salt which is formed dissolve in water. So it will form a clear solution. That's why this technique works best when you're using ammonia gas with hydrogen chloride gas. Then what are the uses of ammonia? Ammonia is used as a to manufacture of fertilizers. It is also used for manufacture of nitric acid. How ammonia can be used to manufacture fertilizer? So basically, uh, manufacture of the fertilizer, what are fertilizers? Fertilizers are the compound which provide essential nutrients for the growth of the plant. And what are the essential nutrients for the growth of the plant? It is N, nitrogen, P, phosphorus, and K, potassium. So these are the three elements which are essential for the growth of the plants or the crop. What is the purpose of the nitrogen? Why the nitrogen is used? Nitrogen is mainly used to build up the, like the protein, or for the growth of the plant. So if we want a better growth, if a plant or a crop is having a stunt growth, so we can add a fertilizer which provide which is having a greater proportion or percentage of nitrogen. So that will be a better choice. Phosphorus is used for the roots and stem, for better root system and stem. And potassium, it is mainly if you want a better fruit or flower from the certain crop or plant, you add a fertilizer which will provide potassium, like having a higher proportion of the potassium. How these fertilizers are formed? Basically, when ammonia is reacted with, when you have ammonia and it reacted with acid, like example, ammonia react with hydrogen chloride, what it will result? Ammonia plus hydrogen chloride or HCl, this will result in a formation of ammonium chloride. So NH4Cl. This ammonium chloride, this ammonium chloride is known as fertilizer. Like, because why we call this as a fertilizer? Because it provides one of the essential nutrient which is required for the growth of the plant. So this fertilizer, ammonium chloride, which element it is providing to the plant or the crop? So it is providing nitrogen. Same thing, ammonia is reacting with phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid is H3PO4. So this will result in a formation. I'm not writing a balance equation. This will result in a formation of ammonium phosphate. So this ammonium phosphate, which element it will provide? Because it contains nitrogen. So this fertilizer will be better for the growth of the plant. And what else? It is having a potassium. So it will be better for the roots as well. And you can have, like example, potassium sulfate. This potassium sulfate is also a fertilizer. Why this potassium sulfate is a fertilizer? Because it is providing an essential nutrient, which is potassium. So basically, compound which is providing these nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, these compounds are known as fertilizers. But there is a problem when we are using these fertilizers. There's a problem which we call eutrophication. What is eutrophication? Basically, what happens as you are using a fertilizer for the growth of the so as we are using the fertilizer for the growth of the plant, like using on the field, adding these fertilizers, and these fertilizers are water soluble, should dissolve in water so that the plants can take their food. So what is basically eutrophication? Eutrophication, what happened? It increases, like I'll explain the whole process, what happened in eutrophication. Example, this is a field where you're growing the crops. Like this is a whole field. Now what you do, you're adding a fertilizers, the compounds which provide the essential nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Normally, these fields, agriculture or farmlands, they are nearby the water source. So example, if there is too much rain in the area, what this rain will cause? This will cause a flood. And if there is a flood, so the water from the flood will dissolve or take these essential nutrients, and this water will enter the river. And from river, this water will flow to the sea. So as this water will flow through the sea to the sea, and it is having an essential nutrient. So what are the essential nutrient? Like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. A sea is having algae. So what will happen? Because now this will have more, like this is having a better for the growth of the plant. So the green plants will start to grow at a higher rate on the surface of the sea. So as these plants start to grow, there are plants which can grow on the surface of the water. So as these plants will grow at a faster rate or a greater rate, so what it will do two things. Number one, it reduces the amount of sunlight which enter the water, because most of the sunlight is absorbed by the green plants which are growing at a rapid rate due to the presence of the fertilizer. That is one thing. So second thing, these plants, they're absorbing or taking oxygen. So as these plants are taking oxygen from the which is dissolved in water, so amount of oxygen will decrease. As the amount of oxygen will decrease, ultimately it will affect the marine life. So it cause, and as it affects the marine life, so even the fishes which are eating these plants, so this fertilizer will enter the food chain of human beings as well. And this whole process, the enrichment, basically the enrichment of a water by the nutrient salt, this is in our ecosystem, but due to the increase in like or use of the fertilizer, we call this as eutrophication. This page, any question in this page? Is it clear what is eutrophication? Basically, what happened, the water, there is an enrichment of the water due to the use of the fertilizer, like enrichment of the nutrient salt in the water due to the use of the fertilizer, which ultimately affects the marine life, and we call this as eutrophication. So basically, when we were not using the fertilizers, if there was a flood, that flood just take the water, and that does not affect the enter the sea. Like the water entered the sea but does not avalanche or does not multiply the growth of the plants on the surface of the sea. But because why we are using a fertilizer, what is the reason for that? To have a better crops, better quality crops, better fruits, food. We are using this artificial nutrients which are known as fertilizers, and the demand is also increased. That's why the rate of growth of the plant is also essential. That's also a reason why a fertilizer is used. Is it clear, the eutrophication? Any doubt in this part? Amount of fertilizer, yes, we should add, like example, a small quantity of the fertilizers, but the thing is we can minimize, like we can, the reason is that um, the fields, the agriculture or the farmlands are located at a source of the water, like, or are nearby a source of the water. So the chance is there, the probability is there that that area might have a flood due to the heavy rain. So if we want to avoid this or reduce this, so we should minimize the use of fertilizer. Like example, using a small quantity is one of the way which minimize that, or making sure that the fertilizer which is added to the soil and is absorbed by the plants. How it reduce the amount of oxygen? Because what happened, the water contain a dissolved air. So these plants also, because the plants also take oxygen. So when these plants are taking oxygen, from where they take oxygen, the plants which can grow on the surface of the water, they can take oxygen from the dissolved oxygen from the water. So as they take the dissolved oxygen, the amount of dissolved oxygen in the water, the sea water, decrease or reduce, and that cause, like, because the fish is also extracting or taking the dissolved oxygen from water. So if amount of oxygen in the water reduce or dissolved oxygen reduce, that will ultimately affects the marine life. That's why, like example, nowadays you will find at certain regions suddenly, like, thousands of fishes dying at once. So that's the main reason, because lack of oxygen in that water. So when we are using the fertilizers, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium for the better growth of the plant, but what happened due to the flood or heavy rain, that water will dissolve or wash away these fertilizers and take the fertilizers together, will dissolve in a, first in a river, and then that river water enter the sea. So when this river water enter the sea, the green plants at the surface of the water will grow at exponential rate, like rapid rate, because now all the essential nutrients, the NPK, are present in a sea water. So that causes an avalanche or exponential increase or a growth of the green plants at the surface of the sea water. So as these green plants are growing, they are also absorbing oxygen. From where they absorb oxygen? They absorb oxygen from the water, which is, the air is dissolved in the sea water. So they're extracting or taking the oxygen from that, which reduce the amount of dissolved oxygen in a sea water and affects the marine life. Is it clear now? So this was the last topic of air and water. Now we will start a new chapter, which is sulfur.